Hello everybody. Welcome to Coffee, Love, and Books. I'm Michelle, and today I'm going to be doing a review on The Great Hunt duology by Wendy Higgins. Now this was a series I was really drawn to reading because it has a really cool, intense premise. But how this entire review is going to work is I'm going to do a quick synopsis about what the book was about if you haven't read it, if you would like to read it. And then I'm going to go into my main pro and then my main con, which will both be spoiler free. And then I'm going to go through the other 4 pros and the other 4 cons in the spoiler section. So I'll let you know when spoilers are coming up in case you would like to read these 2 books. So basically the premise of the book, which I was really drawn to, was that there's this beast. It's a horrifying beast that no one has ever seen. It can swim, and it's just killing all these people. And it seems completely unstoppable. And so that's kind of the setup you see. And the king of this land offers his daughter Arity as the bride to whoever will kill the beast. So a bunch of these guys are coming in, and the story follows Arity throughout this journey as she's going, as she's kind of really worried. It's a really bad situation that she's in, but she's willing to sacrifice for her people. So that's why I was drawn to it. It's a really amazing setup. It was one of my favorite things about this book, or these books. The first book in particular, I was super fascinated to see how this ended up. With that being said, the main pro for this series was the magic system. It was so cool, something I hadn't really seen done before. Basically, the magic in this world is you have special powers. They can actually do amazing things. They can heal, they can kill, they can light flame. That was so weird. They can make fire, all this stuff. And they're very powerful, which has caused the people, the normal unmagical people, to fear them, and thus they are outlawed and killed if they're found. And thus they are outlawed and killed if they are found using magic, because their magic will appear under their fingernails. It's kind of like a bruise if they've done it. So they'll be killed if they find any lashings on their fingers. So that was such an amazing magical system. I thought it was amazing that not everyone could use it. It was very much like some people could use magic and some couldn't, but actually the magical people in this case are feared. Whereas in something like Harry Potter, it would be the wizards kind of looking down on the muggles as inferior. Whereas here, it's very much the non-magical people in control in most places. So that's kind of our setup. You begin to see a lot of animosity towards the magical people and how this has been a deep-rooted issue for years and years. And I found that setup just so enjoyable to read, so thought-provoking. Yeah, it was a really good fantasy setup. So yes, the magical system was definitely my favorite highlight, best part of the book that I can think of. There were also awesome, great parts, which I will get to in the spoiler section. Alright, so the main con would have to be the romance. The romance was just, some worked, but the fact this book felt the need to pair off every single character that you ever saw the perspective of. It was really, really frustrating. It seemed like no one could stay single in this series. The minute a guy and girl were met in this book, you could tell that they were going to end up being love interests. It was very obvious, not very subtle. It was kind of unnecessary. A lot of these characters didn't need to be paired off. And yeah, that was very frustrating. I did not enjoy that part of the book. It was completely unnecessary. All right, so if you have made it this far, I'm about to go into spoilers. So if you have not read these books, or if you want to read these books, I would suggest you skip to the end. I'll definitely put something on the screen showing that there are spoilers. Okay. So my second main pro, which I already kind of raved about, was the plot and the setup. It was just so perfect and amazing, and I loved it. The third one is the main villain, Rosaria. She was really, really good. In the end of the first book and the beginning of the second book, she was, you could see where she was coming from, because the last have been so abused, and you can honestly understand why she's doing what she's doing, but she's definitely doing the wrong things, and she's doing it for very wrong reasons. So I loved Rosaria. I thought she was a great villain, and her character wasn't perfect in The Great Pursuit, but her character portrayal wasn't perfect in The Great Pursuit, but I did really enjoy reading about her character, and you begin to see her side of things and why she did what she did, but she was still a very evil character. So I really enjoyed her. Alright, on that note, I'm actually going to go to my con, which is Prince Vito. Prince Vito was just... why, Wendy Higgins? Why did you put this villain in there? He was completely unnecessary. He reminded me of, I think his name is Colin from Secret Garden. He was just completely bratty. He didn't have, he was just there to be the sickest, most horrible person you can think of. And he did that. I didn't see him as a great character. He didn't need to be there. Rosaria was a good villain by herself. She didn't need some kind of political power, who wasn't mentioned really until the second book. And yeah, he wasn't necessary unless to make you just hate the villains more. But I think if Rosaria had been executed in a slightly different way in that second book, you didn't need, Vito had no purpose except to just be a horrible person. Alright, going on to my next pro, which is, okay, so the first chapter was so good. It was the first chapter of The Great Hunt was just amazing. It got me hooked. I was like, okay, this is really epic. They kind of make you really fall for this wonderful couple, and then bam, the beast is there and he kills one of the people. And it was just so abrupt, so sad. It had only been 3 pages, but you're still heartbroken that this guy is dead. And it was just such a really compelling first chapter. I really enjoyed reading that one. I was like, oh, this is a good setup. Again, with the setup, but the first chapter was killer. My next con is the endings of both these books, especially The Great Pursuit. But I enjoyed the fact that Paxton didn't kill the beast at the end of the Great Hunt, but in the Great Pursuit, the ending, it didn't have enough weight to it. Like, there was this horrible enemy, barely any loss of life, and that kind of bothered me, that no one who we cared about really died. It was just like side characters, maybe who we had somewhat liked. None of the there were a lot of main characters in these books, and they didn't die. And I liked that, because I loved these characters. I didn't want them dead. I wanted them to have a happy ending. But also, as far as like emotional weight in a book I'm going to remember goes, it was just a little too unbelievable that they would all survive this. So my next pro is, the world. The world was so good. It's really confusing in the first book when they're like, oh, men from here and men from over there, and you're like, wait, who's from where, what? But as you get to know the duology more, you begin to see a lot of the different people from these different places, and you get to know their cultures and how they work, and you kind of fall for a lot of it's just a really cool world, though. It's so fun to spend some time in. All right. I think I did 2 pros at the very beginning, so I'm going to have to do 2 cons at the very end, because I've done messed up. So my next con is characters who seem to only exist for the plot, or just characters who are just there. Like, a lot of characters just happened to be there, and they were really unnecessary. They didn't have to exist. I didn't see Rosaria's... What was her name? Rosaria's, like, the girl who hung out with Rosaria all the time. I didn't see her as a really necessary character. She didn't really do much. Though she was kind of like, she added more to Rosaria's character, which was very appreciated. There was, like, this random royalty guy at the end. Vito also falls into this list. Just characters who seem to exist to make the other characters do something. They didn't exist as their own person. They kind of just existed for the main characters. And that wasn't very fun, because I'm a very character-driven person. Okay. And the last con is just... it's just there wasn't really any character growth in a lot of these people. Like, any of them. I didn't see much character growth at all. Maybe Paxton is the one exemption from this. It's all over a very short time, but it would have been nice to see characters kind of change and become better people. And they kind of just stayed the same. They started out kind of perfect and they ended pretty perfect. And that was a little bit frustrating. The only character that did change was Leaf. And he was just... I hated that, and well, I loved that, and it's another thing where I'm like, I was happy that they were happy. Like, I wanted Paxton and Arity to get to end up together, but Leaf, we didn't get to see him change. There was nothing to show us that he would have made a decision like that, because he's been shown to be a selfish, although very brave, kind of Thor-like man. And it just didn't seem like something he would do. He wouldn't give up his homeland, he wouldn't give up his honor for Paxton and Arity's happiness. He just wouldn't. That's not something Leaf would do. And if we had seen him progress to that point, it would have made sense. But just all in all, didn't get to see him change. Like, just a day ago, he was just being all pouty because Gwyneth didn't like him anymore. And now he's all like, yay. It didn't make any sense. But Leaf did have a pretty happy ending. He's the one person who did not end up with a love interest. Which was okay, I guess. I will say Gwyneth's love interests were a bit of a surprise to me. But also, I'm like 90% sure that author had no clue who Gwyneth was going to end up with when she finished the first book. I'm like, Harrison, no. Alright, so in conclusion, I'd say this is about a 3.5-star book. I really enjoyed reading it. It was a good book, or good books. It was a good story, compelling world. There were a lot of errors and or just not great things in the execution of a lot of these things, but in all, I love the setup. It was really fun to read about, and I look forward to reading more fantasy because of this book. Or because of these books. Alright, well, that is the end of my review. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next Saturday. Bye-bye.